and welcome back to Franklin Covey's twice weekly podcast on Leadership with Scott Miller. That's me. I am your host each week, 6 years, 400 episodes, where twice weekly on Tuesdays and Fridays in both audio and video formats, we interview some of the world's most remarkable luminaries, people that have done something extraordinary, whether they are a creator, an artist, an actor, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, perhaps they are a leader, maybe they are someone that is a household name, or perhaps you may not have heard of them, but in some circumstances they have survived and thrived a tragedy, a trauma, some unspeakable setback, and have summoned the courage and the vulnerability to teach through it. This is a leadership podcast where we discuss a broad range of issues. Today's guest is Lisa Nichols. She is the author, the New York Times bestselling author of the book Abundance Now. She has co-authored numerous books, including books in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, namely Chicken Soup for the African American Soul and Chicken Soup for the African American Woman's Soul. She is a renowned entrepreneur, speaker, teacher, actor. She had a feature part in the self-help movie The Secret, and she's joining us today at my invitation to share a broad variety of life lessons and wisdom from all of the roles in her life. I think you will find her to be enormously quote-worthy and certainly worth your 30 minutes of investment today. Lisa, welcome to On Leadership.
Oh, I'm so excited to be with you, Scott. I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Well, the honor is ours because honestly, of our 400 guests, you may have the broadest resume of anybody I have met in terms of innovator, creator, artist, actor, teacher, coach, speaker, human, all those. Would you indulge me, for those who may not know that much about you, would you rewind a couple of decades and maybe start with you were born where and what happened next?
Yeah, so I was born in Los Angeles. I love to say I was born in South Central Los Angeles between the Harlem Crip 30s and the Rollin' 60s. And Scott, those are not cheerleading squads. Those are gangs. Very early on in my life, it was a survival at the fittest. I found myself in 1997 broke and broken and needing to find my own oxygen when I had to get on government's assistance to feed my son. And at that time, I literally said, I need an intervention in my own life, and I need to rescue me. And I was an athlete, so I was a state champion athlete, and so I knew how to go where I've never gone before, to get out of me what I've never gotten before. I just didn't know where to go. And that's when I picked up Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I was about 25 at the time, and it changed my life. There was a part in the book that said, and I'll always remember it, it's been 30 years, it says, if you were at your own funeral, I'll summarize it, if you were at your own funeral and there were 4 people to speak, what would they say about you? And I realized at 25 that I hadn't lived the life that I wanted people to say about me. And that was the turning point. A lot of moments up into that where I needed to make a decision on who Lisa would be. But that was the moment when it was riddling enough where I said, I want to live the story that I want to be told. And that was the beginning of this version.
Lisa, fast forward a little bit. You have done a broad variety of things that are, at face value, they may seem disconnected, but they're actually quite deliberate, intentional, and interconnected as I review your history. Walk us through some of your professional ventures and kind of maybe tie them together for us.
Yes. I knew very early on that I had a message in my belly and I wanted to inspire. And my form of inspiration was resiliency and determination. Like that was the body of people that I wanted to touch. That was the body of content that I wanted to master. And so as a speaker, I started in church, just kind of speaking through, different circumstances and events. And then I moved to what's inspiration look like in a book. That took me to Chicken Soup for the Soul, where I was the co-author of their first cultural series. And then I was in The Secret, and that was about possibility and mindset. Everything I've done has been about possibility, mindset, and turning a test into a testimony, turning a challenge into an opportunity. And then I began to build Motivating the Masses. Motivating the Masses is all about personal development and speaker development. How do I own my voice? How do I hone my voice? How do I use my voice to produce more good in the world? And so everything in Motivating the Masses was leading up to that. And then I began to do my own books, No Matter What, Abundance Now. And all the books are about blending life circumstances with your dreams and making sure you don't live a either or life. You live a both and life. I was raised, you can have this or that. And that's just not the truth. What do I do to have both and? And I don't have to always fly when I leap. But all I have to always do is get up if I should fall. And so my premise and my foundation is don't just trust your wings and don't just always have to fly. If you trust your get up muscle, Scott, then you'll always take the leap. So everything you've seen me touch is about trusting your get up muscle, trusting your bounce back muscle, trust your soar. But that'll take care of itself. If you trust your bounce back muscle and your ability to get up one more time, you'll actually take the leap to soar more. So that's what you've seen in all of my history. Now I spend my days teaching leaders how to have a voice that's impactful, not just informational. Most leaders are highly, highly educated either by experience or by the standard educational systems. But so few leaders are truly impactful and riveting and unforgettable. And I believe that we get to be informative and unforgettable. And so that's what I spend my time doing now.
Lisa, why you don't have 100 million TikTok followers is beyond me. I've got a way for you to make some money. I think you should just tape 45-second morning bounce out of bed audio inspirationals. People will subscribe to this app. You will make $1 billion and you will change 1 billion lives because you are contagious.
I love it. Thank
hold
you
on
for
a second.
that. Note it.
Okay, noted. And I'm going to help you produce that. Okay, you can't just drop, and I was in The Secret and not expect a follow-up on that. First of all, will you remind all of our listeners and viewers, those who may not know, what The Secret was? And when you say I was in it, what does that mean?
Yeah, so The Secret was a global phenomenon, number one. I got to tell you, none of us saw the success of The Secret being what it ended up being, 56 different languages, and I don't know, it's just insane. But The Secret was a documentary, number one, to begin with. It was a produced piece of work, a movie that talked about the law of attraction. And it really put the power back in the listener's hands that what you think about, you bring about. Your life is a result of what's going on in your head. You want to change your life, change the conversation going on in your head. You want to manifest something, first think about it, and then put action to it. And it empowered a global conversation. And it just became this viral explosion that ended up having Oprah Winfrey call me, her studios call me. It had Larry King studios call me. It went viral and it was explosive and in every different language. And it was the first time a body of work was done across so many diversities. Black women, Black men, Latin, white, older, younger, all in one piece of work, saying, you got it in you. You got everything you need to make your life what you want it to be. And people were hungry for that empowerment. And then I was particularly popular on it. I was one of the featured teachers, didn't plan to be. That was just simply by the conversation because I was new to law of attraction. I was born and raised in a Baptist church. We didn't know about law of attraction. What we knew about was ask, believe, receive. Ask, believe, receive. So when I did my contribution in The Secret, I was very basic. I didn't really use a lot of, transformational words. I just kind of said, give yourself permission to ask and then believe and have faith. And then receive and know you're worthy of it and get in radical action to make it happen on your behalf. What I found out, Scott, was while many of the other teachers were on the super highway of transformation, my conversation was the on-ramp of transformation. So millions and millions of people who weren't familiar with the law of attraction began to follow me. and began to look at me. And life was just unrecognizable. I went on the Oprah show, and within 72 hours, I received 9,782 emails because my conversation was also very onboarding, very layperson, and more people can understand it.
All the more subscribers for your morning wake up app from Lisa. We got to talk about this,
That
my
right
friend.
there.
I'm
that
telling
right
you.
there.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
You have a lot of expertise in a lot of areas. One in particular is goal setting. You're quoted as you can't hit a moving target. And so to get crystal clear about what you want, I want you to give us a quick master class on how do you get clear on what you want? Because I think a lot of us have moving targets that we're not hitting.
Yeah, absolutely. So it happens in layers. So first, understand what's the story that you want to tell about your life. And I always say, I'm going to start by putting you rest in peace, right? Because that's what Stephen Covey's book did for me. It really jolted me. What do you want to be told about your life? What do you want to be told about you? First, begin with the end in mind. Write that out. Get very clear. And then reverse engineer, what do you have to do to tell that story? Because we go forward with goals, go backwards with intention. What do you have to do to tell that story? Now write that out. Now, to me, that should be 3 or 4, maybe even 5 big, hairy, scary things, whether it's in family, in faith, in finances, and social contribution. There are these big buckets that you can break your life down in health and wellness. Make those big buckets. And a lot of times we're feeding one part of our life while the other part is lacking. I say have harmony, not balance. You'll never have balance. There's going to be a part of your life that just gets more attention, but you can have harmony. What are those things, and what way do you want to be remembered, and what story do you want to tell about these big buckets? What are the 3 things that you need to do? Not 9, not 15, 3 things in each one of those areas, perspective areas: faith, finances, health and wellness, family relationships, business. What are the 3 things you need to do that can help tell that story? And now, what I believe is that the 3 things you do each have 3 action steps that you can take inside of the now. I only focus on 1 to 2 action steps in each category, each quarter, because I could easily throw myself in overwhelm. I'm a gladiator. I think I can do it all. And so the reality is, God willing, I'm going to live a long life. So what are the 2 to 3 things I can do in that area of action in the next quarter that would get me to this result now? And so I play the long game. I don't play the short game. I don't live life like it's a sprint. I live life like it's a marathon. I do know the power of now. I operate in the power of now, but I also operate as I get older in the power of spaciousness and breadth. And so as you look at your goals, look at the goals and make sure that the action steps you have have enough spaciousness in them so that you have peace and grace and ease while you're doing it. I've far learned, Scott, in these last 10 years that I don't just want to get to the goal. I want to enjoy the journey on the way to the goal. I want to enjoy my family. I want to be present for my children and my husband and my mother and my father as I hit the goal. So I also say add the spaciousness inside the goal. And then the last thing I would say is every goal is a major milestone, but what's the micro wins to get there? I often note several micro wins that lets me know that I'm on the right track. Yeah. And at every micro win, I stop and do a small celebration, because what's celebrated gets repeated. And as humans, we're often under-celebrated. We don't celebrate ourselves enough. Therefore, we don't feel celebrated by others enough. So on your way to each goal in each category, have micro wins to let you know you're on the right path, and let those micro wins be celebrated. Whether it's a gluten-free cupcake that you make, whether it's a small little dinner that you have, whether it's to just go out to dinner and say, I'm celebrating that I got the cover of my book done. I'm celebrating that I got the chapters outlined. I'm celebrating that I finished that proposal, or that I wrote the framework for that proposal. I didn't even start writing it yet. I just wrote the framework. Celebrate the framework. And so That's what I would say. I'm not the same person as 15, 20 years ago where everything was about go, get it, get it, get it. It is about get it, but reverse engineer, begin with the end in mind. Make sure you do all categories of your life that matters. Give yourself 3 action steps in each category, 3 intentions in each category, and 1 to 2 action steps per quarter for that particular category. And then note what milestones say you're on the right track and celebrate the milestone.
My hand is cramping. I'm writing so many one-liners and notes from you. I think I learned a couple of things from you right then. I learned that maybe life balance is a little bit of a fallacy, right? It's
I
about,
believe that.
what did you call it, harmony? What was the word you used?
Harmony. Balance will never exist. You'll never spend the same amount of time doing one thing as you're doing the other. There's just not enough hours in the day. But harmony can exist. You can make each area feel fulfilled.
You know,
Feel
Lisa,
fulfilled.
when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? I happened to own a literary speaking and talent agency with a partner. And we have a large group of artists and experts under representation. As you know, it takes almost 2 years to write and launch a book. And so, you know, my 2026 is going to be massive, but it's a little lean between now and then because I've got, 100 authors that are writing and launching books under my agency. And I have to be more intentional about my micro wins because every day we sign a new author, every day we have a book proposal accepted, every day a book gets published, a foreign translation is done. These are micro wins that don't feel like big wins, but you've given me a gift today, is that's to be more proud of the micro wins because it helps me to remember the goals worth pursuing. And sometimes the bank balance isn't always the worth of your currency.
Your balance doesn't equal your value.
My bank balance does not equal my value. Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, your bank balance does not equal your value or your contribution. And micro wins lead to macro wins. Sometimes my grandmother said, all the things that you love most that come out of my kitchen, baby, none of them come out of the microwave. They all come out of the oven. So you got to let the best of the best have its time to get fully done. So
why don't you just write a book of quotes? I'll be your literary agent, and this sucker will sell. It'll also drive the morning app subscription. So we'll talk about that. Okay, you are full of not just quippy one-liners, but one-liners that are grounded in mindset. You talk about multiple types, 2 types of currency. Riff on that for a moment.
Absolutely. In this season where we have all of these flash, successes, online, we hear so much about, their 6-figure launch overnight, learn in 90 days how to do a 6-figure this and a 7-figure that. And while all of that's important and current and financial currency revenue is important, especially for good people, because when good people do financially well, good people simply do more good in the world. So I think that financial revenue is super important because it's a fuel. Money is a team member. It simply allows you to do more of what you want to do in the world. However, there's this value that I think gets overlooked often, and there's currency and then there's non-monetary currency. There are things that have such a high value that don't translate in money transaction. They shouldn't be transactional. There are things like affiliate learning, being in proximity with someone who has miles and hours and years inside this industry or this game, and they can help you. It's the visual assets that you can get. It's the audio and the video assets that you may have. It's the time in. It's the witnessing someone do what you want to do, but you don't even know you want to do it yet until you saw someone else do it. There are all these moments, or there's a confirmation like what just happened, Scott, that you go, wait a minute, I'm surrounded by daily wins. But I'm looking for that outcome right there, and I might be missing all of these daily wins that all serve as fuel and confirmation that I'm doing the right thing, non-monetary currency. And so there's this opportunity to rise above your situation a little more, look down with a floodlight not a laser light all the time. The laser light is looking at the book being published in 2027, that thing you want to get done. But the floodlight sometimes comes out and looks at all of the ancillary wins that are occurring, all of the ripple effects, the children witnessing your hard work ethic, the lifestyle that you're able to have, the ability to bounce back. There are all of these non-monetary pieces of currency that you might not have in your viewpoint because you're just looking and measuring it one way. And my invitation is that you measure it in its totality. You measure it in its fullness and its completeness. And then I think the journey will feel far more fruitful. I always say I either get a great outcome or I get a great opportunity to learn, or I get a great setup for my next great opportunity. And my life has been setups. I got paid very, very little to do Chicken Soup for the Soul. I'm grateful for doing it, but it wasn't it wasn't gonna retire me, Chicken Soup for the Soul. It was designed to launch me. It didn't necessarily change my bank account by six figures directly, but indirectly, it put me in the room where The Secret was created. The Secret, I got paid zero to do, zero. But I got paid because I was in The Secret, because I was able to leverage that. And so there are plenty opportunities that we should put in the non-monetary currency category, and then we'll give it its energy that it requires and deserves.
Where have you been all of my life? How do you have time to tape podcasts? You should be keynoting every association, every conference, every sales conference. We know why you are such an in-demand speaker. That was lovely. Not everything is designed to retire you. Sometimes it's designed to launch you. Girl, did I need you today in my life? Let's talk about relationships.
Yeah.
You speak and write a lot about creating intentional relationships that have ROI on both ways. Give us church time with Lisa. I love this. Are you like an ordained minister? I can just see you in a house of followers preaching. Okay, I want you to preach on the topic of relationships. What have you learned, maybe the hard way, even about how all of us should be more intentional with our relationships?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. And by the way, early in my career, in my early 30s, everyone kept saying, you got to be an ordained minister. You got to be an ordained minister. I've had friends offer, I will build the church for you. I will build it. That they were in the position where they can build a mega church. And I've always declined because I said my ministry is in the world. So I do believe that my assignment is ministry. I'm not ordained, and I won't do a building because it has walls. And where there's walls, there's someone who doesn't feel like they could come in. And if I build it without walls, then everyone knows that they're welcome. So I'll speak to that. And now for relationships, and I appreciate you asking, did I learn it the hard way? Because yeah, I learned it the hard way that, and I learned this from Stephen Covey initially, then I had to live some things. A relationship is you deposit into the bank account. And I was just telling a friend just the other day, I said, you've deposited into the bank account. Now it's time for you to know that you can withdraw. Relationships are soil. They're soil to help you. And I got to tell you, relationships are soil. And if the soil isn't nurtured, they can do as much draining as they can do contributing to your life. Relationships are designed to be that sacred place you go to refuel your soul. A relationship is designed to be that opportunity to have someone be your mirror because they know you well enough. Business relationships are the opportunity to get like-minded people together, and together we do more than what either one of us can do individually. Relationships are key. Relationships, I believe, are going to be in your final season. They're going to be how you measure the quality of your life. You're not going to measure how much money do I have in my bank account, because you can't take that with you. It's not going to be how much real estate do I own. It's not going to be what are the accolades, how many degrees do I have, how many letters do I have, how many awards do I have. I believe in your final days, And as we sit down and begin to relax a bit more, which I don't think are like the last year of your life. I believe it's like the last 15 years of your season of looking at things, where I'm about to, in the next 10 years, look at life differently and do life differently. Don't know what that looks like, open to it. But I do know that where I am is I'm reflecting on the quality of my relationships. Your job is to build as many memories as you have inside your relationships that's going to protect the way you think and protect what your memories that you have when you're sitting down relaxing more. My grandmother looked back on her life, and I would interview my grandmother all the time. I enjoyed interviewing my grandmother before she transitioned, and it always came back to her relationships, her family, her friends, her former husband, her work colleagues. She would always end up telling those stories. So I truly believe that to set yourself up to have the memories you want, it's not only about investing in your business development, your leadership development, but bigger and grander than all of that, it's investing in the relationships that you value. I learned that the hard way because early in my career, as I was building, motivating the masses, Lisa Nichols, the speaker, I thought that everyone around me understood. I thought that this calling, this mobile marketplace ministry was so important that everyone around me understood why I couldn't invest in the relationship, why I couldn't stop and have dinner or go to the barbecue or attend the birthday party or the wedding. And a good friend of mine, former good friend of mine, who I just knew I'd grow old with, she was supposed to see my son born, which she saw my son be born. She was also supposed to see him get married. She was supposed to be at my wedding if ever I got married, which I just got married 2 years ago at the time of this recording. And I remember calling her one day after 7, 8 years of not watering and not depositing into our friendship bank account. And I wanted to jump in. Hey, how you doing? And I didn't get the response that I expected. As a matter of fact, she said, everything in your actions has showed me that you don't care about this relationship. So I'm telling you now, I don't want it anymore. She used a bit more colorful words than that, Scott. And I had to accept that. I made that bed. My grandmother says, and she often quotes, the road to hell is paved with good intention. And I didn't understand what that meant. And I looked back and said, but my heart was right. I was building this thing. I was trying to serve the world. I was trying to help people. Can't you see? And her answer was, yes, I can. But why at the cost of our friendship? Why not both? Why not both and so I truly believe, and I can feel myself, and you can probably hear me getting choked up, that the things that matter to us most when we look back at our lives, the things that will matter to us most are how we made people feel and how we left them feeling and who they are to us and how much in our proximity they choose to be. And I truly believe that if you're playing big in the world at any level, you need a safe place to land. And so nurture that place so that when you need to land there, it's there for you to land. And not an opportunist and not transactional, but just experiential, recognizing that before you are anything to the world, you have a relationship with the people around you. And it's okay if they're not all intact right now, but spend energy and time healing them because you can't believe the bond that can be created from healing something. It's never, ever too late to heal, to hold, to be held. It's never too late to say, if I knew now what I knew then. It's never too late to say, write me a new integrity contract. It's never too late to say, you are my priority. And if I didn't show you that, then I apologize. I take responsibility for that. I'm learning. I watch this podcast and I've learned, so I just believe in that. My son is 30 and I'm grateful when my son says, and he says this often, Mom, you never made me feel like I wasn't your priority. You let me know that I was your priority. I'm grateful for those statements. And so that's what I have to say about relationships.
Lisa,
Not a how-to. It's not a how-to.
Lisa, I have taped 450 of these podcast episodes, about 400 released, and we have had the privilege of interviewing, some of the world's most renowned thought leaders, thinkers. You strike me as someone that has a lot in common with another guest. His name is Robin Sharma. He wrote a series of books called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The 5 a.m. Club, The Hero Manifesto. Robin has sold tens of millions of books. And what you share in common with Robin is you have a extraordinary, deliberate intention about the words you use. You call things very deliberately by the name you want to. My sense is you have a very disciplined mindset because you understand that the connection between your mindset and your behaviors and your outcomes. You referred to, I think it was your grandmother who transitioned. You use that word very deliberately. Everyone says passed or died, and this isn't a religious podcast, it's not a spiritual podcast. You have obviously some very deliberate thoughts around what happens after this life, because you said the word transitioned. Would you talk a bit about what do you think is the purpose of life, and what have you learned from your family members who have transitioned around what all of us should be reminded about, how precious life is? Just take that wherever you'd like to go.
Yeah, I believe that we come here with multiple assignments. I believe that there are multiple purposes on one life. I don't think you get more than one or more than two at one time. I believe that over your life cycle, whether your life cycle is 20 years or 92 years or 110 years, that there are purposes put on periods of your life. And I believe that your job is your opportunity is to live into your purpose, the calling on your life. Not everyone does. It's an invitation. And there's an opportunity to live into the calling on your life. I say that the dash between your birthday and your transition day, that dash has an assignment attached to it. That little line, that little line is huge. That little line, as flat as it is, I'll write this out, as flat as this line might be. The line is flat like this. It's not supposed to live that flat. It is supposed to, in fact, be like this. So the line is supposed to create a disruption, occurrence, a wave that says, I was here. Count me in. I did not watch this life on the sidelines and the bleachers. I affected this world by being on the playing field. Not always making the touchdown, not always catching the ball, but I was on the playing field. That our life is supposed to create an ingredient in life, in this world. I'm supposed to put my ingredients in this world. And if my ingredients aren't added to the conversation because I didn't speak up, I didn't have the courage to speak up, I got silenced, I got frustrated by the last chapter, so I robbed the next chapter by not speaking, by not showing up, by not playing full out. Shame on me, because that chapter was supposed to have me in it. I believe that our life is about contribution. And we are not born to take. We're not born to absorb. We're born to contribute, to be in this dynamic dance. Now, I need to receive. I need to pour into me. I need to be poured into, so that when I serve you not from my cup, but I serve you from my saucer. Meaning, I've poured so much into me, I've served me, I've allowed others to show up for me, that I'm now serving you from my overflow. I believe that the life that we live, this part of our lives, whether it's like this or like this, I believe that it is to leave the world a better place than what it was before I was born. I hold on to that assignment. I hold on to it with great honor, and that there's no bigger calling on my life than there is on the guy's life who is at the store that I go to and get groceries from. Like, we both have a calling on our lives. I don't believe some people get a chance to have a calling on their life to contribute, and some people don't get a chance. I don't believe that it's determined by your faith or your geographical origin or your social economic status or your culture or your ethnicity. I believe if you are born into humanity, your calling, the calling on your life, the invitation that you've been given by birth is please leave this place better because you were born in big ways and in small ways. The librarian, big way. The school teacher, big way. Lisa Nichols, Scott, big way. It doesn't matter how. The mailman, big way. How do you leave people feeling better than they were because they crossed your path? I say that to myself often. My grandmother used to say it to me, baby, she calls me baby girl, leave people better because they crossed your path at the grocery store, at the cleaners, on the plane, seat 2A, seat 25B, the airport. How are you making your dash matter? The worst thing you can do to your dash is keep it flat. So when you go through stuff and you have to come through something and you have to survive something and heal through something and you got to make something work, you got to bounce back a few times. Welcome to the opportunity to make your dash dance.
Lisa Nichols, I am customer number 1 for the morning wake up app with Lisa, because I'm a pretty positive person. I'm actually quite annoyingly positive, some friends tell me. But you are on fire. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Here's where I want to end. When we were off air talking, you shared an adage, a wisdom-ism from your grandmother about metaphorically parking your car between this and between that. And it really spoke to me today in sort of where I am in my life. Will you remember that? Will you share that with us?
I do, yes. So I'm a planner. For many years, my life was chaotic and reactionary. And I felt like life was being done to me and from an early age. And a plan became my superpower. It became my comfort zone. And so I made plans and then all of a sudden my plans would be changed or they wouldn't work. And that's when my grandmother introduced the concept to me, sweetheart, make your plan and work your plan, but work your plan living part between fluid and flexible. Between fluid and flexible lives you. So make a plan to work the plan, and then live between fluid and flexible and allow the plan to expand and or contract. Allow the plan to pivot and change. Allow the plan to need more time, need different people. Allow the plan to include you, and sometime allow the plan to not include you anymore. Allow the plan to have the partner that you had planned for, but also allow the plan to maybe need another partner. That don't think that things failed when they didn't work the way you had planned them for. Just consider yourself graduating to the next plan. And so I live parked between fluid and flexible. And when I forget, I simply remind myself, oh, wait a minute. You make the plan, you work the plan, and then you live with the plan parked between fluid and flexible. Be gracious to yourself. Be gracious to your mind. Be gracious to your thinking. Be gracious to what you achieved. You will always have a long to-do list. People like us do, Scott. But your to-done list will always be a lot longer. Just stay fluid and flexible in it.
You know, I did not expect this today. I knew that you were the real deal, but I have so enjoyed listening to you. Like literally, I have so many notes over here around. Sometimes things are not designed to retire me, but rather to launch me. This idea of focusing on micro wins to bring you the macro wins, that we should be parking ourselves between fluid and flexible, and that there are 2 types of currencies. There is monetary currency, and then there is other relational currency that can help us achieve what we're here to do in seat 2A and seat 25B in the airport. And like you said, it's a great thing when great people earn more money and they can do greater things. I've learned, been reminded, been inspired of so many phenomenal tips today from you. Tell us, Lisa, what's next for you? What are you working on? What are you excited about? Other than the app that we're going to co-manage to wake everybody up on fire for only $9.99 a month, what are you working on that people might be interested in?
I love it. So, as I mentioned before, my goal is to help people speak with intention, like you said, and certainty, to have more impact when they speak, and then ideally generate more income if that's a goal for them. So, I believe that income is only followed by impact. You want to generate more income, create more impact, more contribution,
Well
more
said.
benefits. And so we have a program that I only do twice a year. And I think next year we'll start doing it one time a year. And that's called Speak and Write to Make Millions. And I could rename that Speak and Write to Impact and Make Millions. But we're doing that live. And we haven't done a lot of things live in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm super excited about that. It also has a virtual component, but there's an energy that happens. I've been told that when you come to one of my live events, it's part gospel fest, part intensive workshop, and part party and concert. And it is a fusion of all the things that excite and teach ourselves. I'd love for any of your community, which I consider to be an extension of my community, to come sit in this incubator and learn from some of the best in the business, how to speak and learn some speaking techniques that you might not know about, but also seek community and connection at a whole nother level, but also have personal development and human potential development at an entirely different space that you've never seen before. And all of them fuse together. We attract leaders, gladiators, change agents, people who are leading bodies of others. So we attract people who are the teachers and the educators and the business owners and the spiritual leaders in our community. We attract them. So it's at speakandwriteworkshop.com, speakandwriteworkshop.com. And you can come. It's a small room. It's a few hundred people. And if you're ready for your next and you want to be equipped with it emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and with the science of speaking as I know it, please join us.
You are a good person. Lisa Nichols, your book most recently is Abundance Now, Amplify Your Life and Achieve Prosperity Today. I'm going to go focus on my micro wins. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
And we'll see you back here next week for a new conversation on leadership.